Welcome, everybody. It's the Sound Off Show. As we go live, I'm Matt Kundle, local podcast wizard. And it's funny because I was tweeting this week and I said, I don't think I'm going to be doing an episode this week. But lo and behold, I have much less television to watch now that the Tampa Bay Lightning have eliminated the Montreal Canadiens. And we're going back and forth on Twitter. And it's good. It's a good time to bring back John Mamola, who's the program director at WDAE 95.3 in Tampa Bay. And we're not just going to talk hockey. We're going to talk a little bit about everything that we've talked about since December 19th of 2019, which is when you came on the podcast, and life was so much normal back in the before times, and we didn't know what was going to happen. But lo and behold, the pandemic happened, and then a whole bunch of stuff happened in Tampa Bay. And I wanted to use this opportunity to catch up with you and see how you're doing. So how are you?
We're doing just fine down here in Tampa with another Stanley Cup championship and a quick 5-game series with the Canadiens from Montreal. So it is Tampa Bay. Tampa Bay continues to live on. I tweeted it last night. The run continues. So things are very, very healthy here in Tampa Bay between 2 cups, a Super Bowl, a World Series appearance. We had a USL soccer title on top of that. Plus a pretty good run for some of the local colleges too. So everything is beautiful down here in Tampa Bay in July. So it's doing really well.
So wind everybody back, and I think you have about 7 properties in WDAE and in the iHeart group that need some form of sports attention. So I think the obvious one are the Bucks, the Lightning, and the Rays. But
right,
what else you got?
Well, we also have USF, University of South Florida, their football team. We carry their games on DAE, but we also put a lot of coverage toward their basketball program, and especially this past spring, their men's baseball program and women's softball programs too. So they had some pretty good runs going to the super regionals in each of their respective leagues. Plus, on top of that, we're also a Fox Sports Radio affiliate with Dan Patrick and Colin Cowherd. We're also an ESPN Radio affiliate on top of that. Plus, we do some stuff with Compass Media Network. So we have everything. I mean, if you think sports radio, we're it. This is it in Tampa Bay. So to have this amazing run of championships here in Tampa Bay and to be the lone dog in the market, we're in a really, really good spot, and more than thrilled with although the pandemic has done what it's done nationally to not only economically, but also just the people in general and businesses. Overall, it's been a really good run here in Tampa, and we're more than happy to house it all here on WDAE.
So when we think back to December of 2019, I'm trying to think about what your landscape is like when it comes to championships, because I don't think we're in Brady land yet.
Not in Brady land yet. The Bucks were coming off a 9-7 season. Jameis Winston was going into the offseason as an unrestricted free agent, so he could sign or he could go somewhere else. As far as the Lightning, I believe they missed the playoffs before hitting the Stanley Cup final in 2020 in the bubble because they got swept by Columbus the year before. As far as the Rays, they were kind of meandering around 80, 82, 83 wins, but they weren't in the echelon of, being contenders in the American League East. So really all 3 of the professional teams were just kind of, we were looking forward to a real interesting offseason with Jameis Winston. We just assumed that the Buccaneers were going to spend the big money to bring him in because he did lead the league in passing that year, although he threw 30 interceptions on top of 30 touchdowns. But we just assumed that the Bucs were at the time, just going to bring Jameis back because they had already invested so much into his brand and into him on the roster. And then we started getting little words about some changes that might be coming. We actually heard back in January that Brady was interested in coming to Tampa Bay because of all the fallout going on in New England. We didn't really know what to make of it at the time because, you hear little things like that and it's like, okay, well, he's a Hall of Famer. Why would he come here? This has been an organization that has been known for losing. So why would a proven brand like that come down to Florida when he could have his pick of the litter anywhere else in some bigger markets with much more success? and when Brady signed here in March of 2020, which was within the first 60 days of the pandemic really hitting, especially down here, that just lit a fire. It seemed like underneath everything sports wise in this market. The Lightning, they picked up stuff back in the bubble, won the Stanley Cup. The Tampa Bay Rays, their spring training was postponed due to COVID. Once they picked things up in a 60-game season, they went 40-20 and got all the way to the World Series. And then, of course, what Brady did, when he was here, winning the Super Bowl, being the only team in NFL history to win the Super Bowl in their own home stadium, which was absolutely bonkers. It's just been a really interesting run, and I mean, it's been less than 2 years, which is weird to think that. You just and I've been here down 10 years now. I mean, I was waiting for a winning season from the Buccaneers, let alone a Super Bowl title. Just to kind of cover that first season. So it's been an amazing run with so many ups and downs, and just, oh my goodness, is this really happening? Including last night when they beat the Canadians. But it's been wild, man. It's night and day completely.
You're no stranger to Stanley Cup championships because you go back to 2010. You were around for when your hometown Blackhawks.
That's right.
Were winning.
Flyers. That's right.
So day one of the pandemic is like March 15th or something like that. I think we can all sort of find the day, but it's also the same day that Tom Brady signs with Tampa Bay. And did you have leaks? Like, did you have anybody saying, "Yeah, this is really going to happen"? Like,
we got word early January that this could really happen. Now, when you hear certain things from certain sources, you kind of like, let's kind of sit in that for a little bit. But we weren't really hearing anything out of Jameis's camp. So when we had really close contacts with Jameis's camp. So when we heard a little kind of inkling over here and nothing over the other one, it started. The later it got into free agency, it was like, okay, this really could happen. So as a programmer, you got to prepare for something like that. So obviously, I'm calling the people at WDAE up in Boston. Okay, it may happen, it may not happen. Well, but how did it work with the Brady brand and with the Patriots and that kind of stuff? So talking up to those guys up in Boston, obviously getting a lot of imaging, having internal meetings about, how do we present Tom Brady to a Tampa Bay audience? Because say what you want about Brady. I mean, he's the greatest to ever play the position. People didn't like him down here. But it's one of those things, like, you hate them when they're not here, but boy, when they're part of your roster, man, you're my best friend. So we had to find ways to kind of image that a little bit. So that was a game changer. I mean, this market, Tampa, and I think we talked about this last time. The Rays get dogged for attendance. Hockey in Florida, does it work? I mean, they were talking about that on national TV today. Hockey in Florida. I mean, that's the creme de la creme of the league. I mean, what does that mean for the league? And then obviously with the Bucks and their history of losing. So this town has been a punching bag for at least 15, 20 years. Now this is the new Boston. This is the Patriots winning and the Bruins winning and the Red Sox winning. We're that now. And I think there's a lot of national media attention that has a really tough time identifying that. But athletes like coming here. And I've heard it from numerous guys. The reason why professional athletes like playing in a market like Tampa Bay is because they're not hounded. They're not recognized all over the place. People leave them alone. The no state tax thing, that's absolutely 100% valid. But down here, sports is not life. There are so many more things to do in the state of Florida and in the general Tampa Bay region where the focus is not uber sports. Like, I come from Chicago. The Cubs lose 5 in a row. The town's on fire. The Rays lose 5 in a row. It's Thursday. There's not that ingrained passion for it because they just haven't had the time down here nor the success to build up that attachment to their professional sports teams. That's why these big guys like coming here. That's why the Lightning players sign for less than they would in other markets. is because they can live their lives down here. Yes, they're professional athletes. That's great, but they can live their lives down here. They don't need to be worried about being hounded by at places and pictures all over the place and media constantly. It's not like that down here. It's a very relaxed kind of vibe, and you got all the stuff to do on top of it when you're not playing sports. So it's just really interesting to kind of see how. And it's not Brady. I mean, Stamkos had a real shot at signing up in Toronto, and he decided to come down here and stay here instead for less money because he just loves the area. He goes up to Toronto. You don't know where he's going to be at. I mean, he's hounded by media and constant pressure to win all the time. Down here, it's very relaxed. So, I'm just extremely happy that honestly for the market, I'm just happy not necessarily that the market is no longer the punching bag, but through probably the toughest time in this country's history, or at least within the last 100 years. Well, I shouldn't say 100 years, but definitely since the 40s and 50s, there's something to kind of lean on. And there's something to kind of take away as a distraction from everything that's going on around them. Now, say what you want about Florida and the pandemic, but this was a very nice distraction for people to just kind of not have to overly worry about stuff and still enjoy something that maybe they didn't in the first place, and maybe they can attach to it now because of that.
In Canada, they make a pretty big deal about not having won a Stanley Cup since 1993.
Yeah,
you can associate that with the arrival of Gary Bettman, but the matter is that it's exactly what you say, is that it's not a very attractive. Edmonton, Calgary, Winnipeg are not great places to spend your winter. A lot of people don't want to have to explain to their wives, by the way, you're going to be living in the dark for the next few months while I'm on the road half the time, and we're paying a lot of taxes, and there's a lot less to do. Right. Anaheim, Tampa Bay, San Jose, these are all reasonable places. And I think that those teams do have more options when it comes to the offseason. Listen, NHL players and agents and owners will deny it. We all know it's true. You and I know it's true. And the media thing is crazy because, I'm from Montreal, and Kirk Muller summed it up to me one day, and he said, you win 2 in a row here, you're a hero, and you'll probably get caught up and have too many drinks. And if you lose 2 in a row, you have to hide in your basement. And the media can be quite relentless. So it's like you said.
And I lived that in Chicago. And every time I talk to my guys back home, it's like, look, it's different here. It just is. And it's because I don't feel that the market has ever really, required it. We don't need that day-to-day kind of, hounding of players on certain things and living day. No. People just want to make sure you're winning, and if you're winning, then they'll gain interest and they'll go to games and they'll buy your product, and that's about it. But they don't live and die with it down here like they do in a lot of other markets. They just don't.
How did you handle the Super Bowl being in Tampa Bay? I mean, you can set up a lot, but then here you go again. You got to make some changes, right? Because now your team's going to be playing in the game, and Brady wins up in Green Bay, and then what are you thinking to yourself?
Well, I mean. When they won in Green Bay, we had a really good plan in place. This station has been at every Super Bowl since, I believe, the mid-'90s. So now it's in our own backyard. But there's a pandemic. So how does Radio Row work? How does covering the actual week of the game work? It was completely different. I've been to the last 5 Super Bowls. This one, Radio Row, was just like normal. The problem is that instead of 200 radio stations and all the television networks in one big room, it was 46 tables. And there was maybe 13 to 17 of them filled, and we were one of them. But being the host market, we had to do that. So although nobody was coming to Radio Row during the pandemic, we still provided extensive Super Bowl coverage like we always do on WDAE. I think we had a total of 100 to 110 guests in the whole week. Big names too, because being the home market and with your team in the game, obviously you get a little bit, celebrity to it. But as far as actually covering the game, because of the restrictions of the NFL, everyone had the same access. There was no practice, kind of access. Everyone was on Zoom. So, okay, if we all have the same thing as far as, print, digital, radio, whatever. How can we present it just a little bit different? So we would broadcast Zoom calls live, which television stations just didn't have the capabilities doing nor wanted to do. But we did that. We created all kinds of different programming elements to celebrate Tampa Bay in the game and so on and so forth. And then the day of the game, we did an all day broadcast at a wing place right across the street from the stadium, and it was the biggest party in Tampa Bay. So I mean, it's not that we really did anything different. It's just that you try to plan the same amount of coverage you can, working with the restrictions that are placed on you, but still trying to deliver that same quality product. And I think we knocked it out of the park. We were the only local sports station or local station that was on Radio Row all week. I mean, a couple of stations kind of popped in, popped out, but that was about it. We were there all week. And then on Super Bowl Sunday, we were at the epicenter of the biggest party going on, and we broadcast there all night. We went all the way, past midnight and past 2 a.m. and past 4 a.m. And it was great radio, and people were up, and our listeners and this market and the Buccaneers appreciate that, because it is a big deal. I mean, Stanley Cups are a big deal. Super Bowl championships are a big deal. We have to celebrate those. I mean, it's important for the lone sports brand in a sports market, to hold that credibility, to hold that line, which we did. And we did, just like we did last night too. So, again, it wasn't really, any different. It's just that we had to work within the restrictions that were placed on us for the game.
Tell me about some of the imaging that doesn't necessarily make it to air. So, like, I'm imagining you're writing this imaging, and you have to write championship imaging, but you don't want to jinx it. And then what do? You must hide it somewhere. And then how do you program it? And okay, we won. Let's go with it. Listen, the box is easy because it's Super Bowl Sunday. You know what you do. You change a couple switches.
Yep.
But here you are. You're up 3-0 on Montreal. And then is it going to be tonight? Is it going to be tomorrow? When can we pull it out? So how does all that work inside the station?
I've had a very good work ethic, and Mitch Rosen in Chicago taught me this a long time ago. Always work a week ahead. So, for example, we knew it would either be Montreal or Vegas, right, if they were to win. We had imaging done a week before that series ended. And basically, we had different ways of doing it, too. We sat down with our imaging guy, James Berliner. We sat down as a collective, and we came up with serious stuff, which obviously presents the news of the day, promoting the best coverage on DAE. And then we also did some pot shot kind of stuff, too. So, like, we would rip Vegas in one or rip Montreal in one. We did the same thing with the Islanders, and potentially they were going to play the Bruins, too. So we did the exact same thing with that. For NFL, it's a little bit easier because you kind of know who they'll play if they win. But we always have stuff at the ready if they lose. That's just something you got to do. You write that in the first round. You just have it ready. You make it very open and honest. Thank you for a great season. Looking forward to the off season. Let's see what happens with this team. Stick on the station all off season. So it's always working a week ahead. We got training camp, let's say July 8th. So we got training camp starting on the 23rd. Starting tomorrow, it's writing stuff for training camp and getting ready for potential back-to-back Super Bowl champion Tampa Bay Buccaneers. And look, when you got 99% of the roster coming back following a Super Bowl title, you got to start, thinking that way too. So, and even the Rays, right now, maybe it's a little too early, but trade deadline's at the end of the month. So let's see what the Rays do to either invest as buyers or sell off as the deadline nears, and have stuff ready for that. But at least work a week ahead of time with a good group of creative people, and you can come up with some really good stuff.
How did you manage the first Stanley Cup win, which was taking place up in Edmonton, which could not really be any further away than where you were located? So what were the challenges with that series?
The challenges were we didn't have access, obviously, to Canada. So we couldn't attend games. So we approached our reporting as more like fans, as opposed to information about what's going on day to day. We couldn't obviously attend morning skates. So we couldn't get any information. Everything was done on Zoom. So we regurgitated a lot of the same information that a lot of other people had, because that's all the information that was presented. However, we took a different approach because we were all at home too. I was stuck in my office in my house, and all my talent were at remote locations. All my staff, for the most part, except maybe a couple board ops, were all working remotely. So instead of presenting it like we had in the past, it was more or less like, okay, let's just present it like fans, and let's just try to have some fun with it at the same time. And it worked really well. As far as the process of writing up that imaging, I mean, obviously with the pandemic, we all had to make our adjustments. So video conferencing, daily Microsoft Teams meetings or Zooms or whatever, with running Google Docs and running Microsoft Word documents, where we can all just kind of spitball some ideas and put it to paper. We have a number of great voiceover guys. Jim Cutler is amazing. How fast that man turns around stuff. Yeah, we just did it a little differently, and it worked for us. And at the time, I mean, they won it up in Edmonton, which was great, and they flew home, I think, that very night. And then we just kind of figured out how to cover a boat parade, because we've never done that before. So luckily we got some access to some boats, and we didn't do a broadcast out there, but boy, the digital coverage was fantastic. And we approached it as fans, and we got some really good videos and some really good pictures because of the partnership that we have with the Lightning. They're able to grant us some access that honestly no other radio outlet in this market can get. So it's just utilizing your partners to just produce some really good content and just celebrate the moment, because when they win, we all win. I win, the market wins, the station wins, everybody, local business, they win. That's how you have to approach it. And luckily we have 3 pro teams here that understand that. And so they work with us really well on presenting that as well.
Is that common, by the way? I'm just going back to something you mentioned about how you call up to WEEI. I mean, that's an intercom station. You're an iHeart station. Is it common to swap, chit chat?
When you have relationships with people over time, yeah. I've been a big follower and big fan of Jason Barrett's Barrett Sports Media for a long time, if not since the inception. I've been to his conferences, and you get to meet people, and you just kind of get to know one another a little bit. And look, we all have the same challenges. And if this pandemic, taught us anything, it really reinforced that we're all in the same boat. We're all trying to do the best content we can. And yes, okay, it's iHeart versus Entercom versus Beasley or Cumulus or whatever. But you know what? At the same time, it's sports, and it's sports radio. And if we can kind of lean on, I mean, look, EEI. I mean, at the time they were considering picking up the Bucs radio network because it's Tom Brady. Okay, yeah. I mean, Sports Hub's got the Patriots stuff. Why, if you're EEI and this is smart, and Brady's got that kind of footprint left in New England, why not? At least investigate it a little bit. But yeah, I mean, PDs. I think music radio is a little bit different. Maybe just because it's format versus format. Maybe they kind of really respect more the lines of company versus company. But really, with sports radio, I mean, we're all in the same boat. We're all trying to do the best content we can, and if we can lean on each other for idea shares or just kind of a little bit of information just to help each out, I'll scratch his back, he scratches mine, and whatever. And yeah, it works well.
You and I talked that your station had started to do a little bit of work here with what we're on now. We're talking via StreamYard, and we're streaming on a couple of interesting places. And as well, you mentioned during the parade, you stepped up the digital game.
Yes.
So how much have you evolved when you look back to when we first spoke in 2019 to where you are now? I mean, that's a huge jump.
We started from nothing to basically everything we're doing now. The one thing about the pandemic that forced us all to figure out is, all right, video technology, here we go. We're all working from home. We all got to communicate a little bit differently. And also with no sports too. Esports has always been a realm that I've been very, very interested in. It's sort of like a semi-hobby kind of thing for me. And we figured, since we're not having live games going on, a number of my guys are a little bit younger. Some don't want to admit how old they are, but they still play video games. So let's figure out how to do simulations of actual games with our talent to interact with our audience. I played MLB The Show 20 like every night for weeks. That's probably what led to a couple of different things. But that's another story. But we did baseball streams. We did hockey streams. We did teaming up stuff with the local soccer team, or we did kind of a combo stream for a FIFA tournament. We also worked on, that was kind of the genesis to kind of figure out, okay, well, how can we put our live programs on live video through Twitch and Facebook Live and that kind of stuff. Investing in technology like StreamYard, utilizing Streamlabs for some stuff, and just finding different ways to present content to different audiences because everyone's at home. I mean, people ain't in the car in the morning listening to the radio. They're on their smart speaker, or they're on Facebook, or they're somewhere else. Maybe their cell phone. Listen on the iHeartRadio app. How can we present more content that way, as opposed to just sticking to what we always did? Now, every one of our shows from 6 a.m. till 6 p.m, 7 p.m, that's local, is streamed on video on Facebook, on Twitch, as well as on Periscope. I don't know how long that one's going to last, but we've built a pretty solid audience on all those platforms through the pandemic, because we were sort of forced into a role where we had to present content a little bit differently. And we're still learning. That's the interesting thing to me, is like, it's StreamYard, and it looks a certain way and feels a certain way, but what's something else that we can add to it? We're now investing in camera technology, as opposed to relying on this little thing on my laptop. And now it's becoming a revenue stream for us. So, I mean, through a pandemic, you kind of learn some new skill sets, and really this should be a teaching model for everybody, that now you can make a little bit of money off it on top of that. So, and it's just an easy way to interact with the audience too. I love just sitting on Twitch all day and just, talking to the listeners that are watching the programs. And we got a pretty good queue that, watches, and it's growing constantly. We don't have any partnerships with Twitch or anything like that. We just kind of wing it and kind of keep it very raw and very natural. And we have fun with it. And it's just a different way to build on our personality too, with the audience online. So, but yeah, man, we're night and day now. I mean, if you looked at July of 2019, we weren't doing anything on video. Now every show's on video. We're doing video game streams and just having a really, really good time. And it's adding a lot of fun, like a really good fun element to every single one of the programs too.
Well, after you win a championship, I don't know what it is about the hockey players, but it seems like, the answers are the same every night. We give 110%. We're doing our best out there. You get the standard stuff.
Yeah.
And then the season's over, and then Kucherov goes off on an entire. I mean, can we not have this like every night? How great would hockey be if you just went off every night? Of course, somebody's going to get sticked and hurt when it's all over, but it's always the Russian guys who have the best, wind up on the internet with the best stuff. I mean, it has been Mardi Gras for your station for 24 hours, for the last 12 hours. So Brady's talking to the Stanley Cup.
Yeah.
Keith Olbermann is having a great time, and then Kucherov is not sober somewhere.
So shirtless, drunk Nikita Kucherov is a riot. Pat Maroon is fantastic. Wait till the boat parade on Monday, because I promise you, Pat Maroon's going to be doing something. He just won his third straight cup. I mean, he won in St. Louis, and then he got the 2 here in Tampa. I wish athletes would understand that personality matters, and especially in a market like Tampa, because like there's not a lot. I mean, look, you can give me the same generic BS all day long. That's not going to attract anybody to, not only the brand you play for, but your brand too. What Kucherov did yesterday is completely out of the norm for anything he does during the regular season. If there was a little bit of that more personality, and maybe when we got out of the Zoom culture where people can actually talk to people face to face again in locker rooms, maybe it'll kind of loosen up a little bit. But I wish teams would stop controlling the message so much, and control and spinning, and kind of teaching their players how to react in certain ways, because they're human. Last night was a human moment. That was the first time that team played in front of a home crowd since 2019. That was, I mean, they started this season with no fans, and that was back in January. That was what, 6-7 months ago. This has been a grind, and it was just good to see just natural emotion come out of people for a change, because for so long you're stuck in that Zoom room, and there's no connection there because you're staring at a monitor. You're not staring at a person. I just wish that once we get out of this Zoom culture where athletes have to act a certain way because you got the PR guy over there, you got the camera in front of you, and they tell you it's 3 minutes. Just act like a normal person. Those are the best quotes, and honestly, those are the people that are so easy to attach yourself to, because you recognize that, okay, yeah, they're a professional athlete, but they were thinking what I was thinking, that kind of thing. I can relate to that guy. Look, I can't tell you how many shirtless people I've seen in the state of Florida that are pounding Bud Lights with their hat on backwards. Hell, I'm a program director of a radio station. I'm on 3 hours sleep right now. I'm chugging energy drinks, and I got my celebratory beer right here for later. Okay? That's me. That's my personality. I produce my midday show. That's me. I wish more guys would act more like me when they're put in front of a camera. And hopefully we'll get to that one day.
Just for everybody in Canada who wants to listen, we can catch you on the air, can't we?
Yeah, I produce our midday show, the Pat and Aaron Show. I would liken it to two guys that just are real. We talk sports. That's the crux of the show, but it's just a fun way of presenting it. They goof on each other. We goof on listeners. We have our goon squad. I know LeBron kind of took that for Space Jam too. But we have our dedicated listener base, and we just have a really good time with it. Again, it fits Florida. We're just, sports. Yeah, it's fun. It's games. We like the day-to-day kind of stuff, but at the same time, there's other things to talk about. We talk a lot about beer. We talk a lot about just stupid stuff in the media. The top stories of the day. Maybe not so much. Definitely no political, but like top news stories of the day. Just kind of clowning on those a little bit. We like talking to people. We have a ton of phone calls every day, which I know is a rarity in most sports markets, in most sports radio markets. But we love just talking to people because the interaction, it's so raw, it's so real. And I think that's why so many people, it's my highest rated show, because people attach themselves to these guys because they're normal guys. They're not trying to be the big, shouting like hot take guys like they got on ESPN TV where I'm right, you're wrong, and that's the way it is. And we're not doing X's and O's because down here you do too many X's and O's way over the head of people, especially with sports, with hockey.
Oh, I can't stand it. In Winnipeg, I just can't stand listening, breaking down the third line or the power play. And people think it's smart. It's probably the most boring radio I have ever heard in my whole life. And honestly, it's boy, that's awful stuff.
One of the biggest attractions for me when it comes to choosing a podcast to listen to is do I believe what this person is saying? Don't sell me on a bill of goods. Can I honestly sit with you in a room for 5 minutes and just have a conversation with you? Because that's what talk radio is. It's just a conversation. So if you're talking way over my head, with X's and O's, or if you're going to be yelling at me like I don't know what I'm talking about, but boy, you sure as hell do, then I'm not going to listen to you. And that's the approach we take, at least with the Pat and Aaron Show, is that we're here to just talk with you and just have a good conversation and have a good time. Again, like you, learn you, laugh with you. If you can do all three of those as a talent, you're going to be a success no matter what market you're in.
Back when we spoke in 2019, it was December. And back then I had no love for the iHeart app at all. I didn't want to listen to my podcast on it. I know a lot. This is a radio podcast. Mm-hmm. And I can tell you that there's no one in radio actually listening to this podcast with the iHeart app. It's like 35 out of about 3,000. Mm-hmm. But since the pandemic started, and then I got some CarPlay, and then I started to reach out a little bit. Now I've got WDAE. I'm listening to that a little bit. And then I started to listen to some other radio stations. And then the Habs got hot, and I started to connect with TSN in Montreal. Right. The iHeart app is now one of my more used apps. It's amazing what the pandemic has done since we last spoke.
Well, I appreciate you saying that because it pays my paycheck.
Okay.
No, but look, I mean, the app has come leaps and bounds when I first started here 10 years ago. The ease of use, the amount of content. I don't get as many ads as I once used to. I still use it like a normal person, free. I don't sign up for anything, none of that stuff. I want to listen to it as though I'm a first time user of the app. I always have wanted to do that. With that, and that goes for any app that I use, Spotify, whatever. Because that's the real time kind of example. But yeah, I agree with you. I think I think over the last couple of years, we've had a lot more programming people get a lot more acclimated and a lot more involved with how the app works and its ease of use. And I think it's really, really starting to show now. And even with smart speakers too. I mean, it's getting to a point where you don't have to say on the iHeartRadio app. You can code it correctly to where it identifies what you're looking for from an iHeartRadio station. And you don't have to say it too. So again, it's just finding different ways to get in touch with people and use the product as easy as possible. And I think my company has done a really, really good job of that lately.
Yeah, I actually got Apple CarPlay, and
Nice.
I will listen to podcasts, but I'll do it through a variety of apps. So, but I'm really enjoying the iHeart app now that I've been able to pick up some of my favorite radio stations, and not just radio stations. There's also some mixed stations. Like there's a classic rock station and a rock station, and a bunch of other stuff. And of course in Canada the Bell stations are up there as well. So it's a good way to connect.
Cool.
By the way, congratulations on your predictions that you made.
It's the first one I got right all year.
Yeah. I hope you can see that, by the way, if you can see that on the screen here that I'm sharing. So the question is, with this shirt on and after the Habs won that night, how many beers did Matt have is the first question. That's a trivia question. How many drinks did Matt have when he tweeted this?
I would guess you're about, the eyes ain't so saggy, so I'm going to probably say about three beers in.
Yeah, it's a couple drинks in, and maybe it started on some wine. And then we moved down a little bit, and then you gave me the just bring it. And then I said, good Lord, have you been paying attention? I'm now 6 drinks in at this point. And I think we kept on going. Who knows what else we said here? It's something, and then that should be fun. It was going to be epic. Your prediction was in 5, and not only that, I'm sort of underselling your 5 here. And that's the fact that you actually picked which games were going to be won. So you knew that Tampa Bay would go up 3-0, and then you'd bring it back in Habs win game 4, and then you'd bring it up back in 5.
Yeah. Now, if I would have predicted an overtime win in game 4, then I could, I should really go to Vegas like right now. No, I said this at the beginning of the series, and I said this last night. I just thought the matchup was terrible. For a Stanley Cup final. I was really hoping Colorado or Vegas would go up against the Lightning because I think it would be a better test. I love the story of Montreal this year, overcoming what they overcame, beating who they beat, and how they beat them too. It's just this Lightning team. It's an all-star team. It just is. So to have the and I love Carey Price. I have always loved Carey Price as a goaltender. I was so happy when they advanced to the final, just so he could finally get a shot in the final. It's just there's nothing on that roster besides him, at least to me, that could match up head to head against the same position on the Lightning on any line, because the Lightning are just so damn deep. They just are. And I thought it was just going to be a terrible matchup from the get-go. I mean, the speed of the Lightning, Andrei Vasilevsky is going to be a Hall of Fame goaltender. This kid that Yzerman took a chance on when they had Ben Bishop here down in Tampa. I mean, just amazing and so dedicated too. I was listening to I think it was Brian Engblom this morning, who does the Lightning broadcast down here. Used to do them with NBC.
And former Montreal Canadian.
Former Montreal Canadian, yeah. Multiple-time Cup champion, too. He was talking about the dedication that he sees day to day from Andrei Vasilevsky. there's a saying that John Cooper has, and it was shown in the Path to the Cup series that the NHL put together. It was I believe it was process over result. If you stick to your process, the results will come. And I think that this entire roster, and Vasilevsky especially, is a young kid coming over here, not knowing the language. He has Kucherov with him, so they have an instant bond. But really honing in on process and getting ready for a game and how to train your body to be ready for a game and things you do, things you don't do, that kind of thing. It's paying off now. I mean, he's 14-0 after losses. 5 straight shutouts in elimination games or something like that. That's unheard of. And not to say that will continue for sure, but because we know it could change. But the way he approaches a game is just fun. It's just fun to watch and see how dedicated he is to his craft. And that's why I think he's going to the Hall of Fame. And also he's taking long-term deals down here to stay in Tampa because everyone wants to be in Tampa all of a sudden. So, but getting back to the series, I mean, I love the story of the Habs. It was great. It was fun to watch. I just thought the matchup was terrible. I feel so bad for NBC because they had a really good run of covering the league. And I love Eddie O, and I love that entire crew that they got. Kenny Albert, I thought was a nice fill for Doc for a year. But that's a dud. I'm sorry. The execs at NBC had to have been like, oh, geez, okay. It's good that we got the Canadian audience tuning in, which is fine, but they're going to be watching Sportsnet anyway. But at the same time, it's like it's not even close. It's not even close. So I wanted to give them a game. I thought, putting them in 4, that way you send off the home crowd, to a little bit of jubilation, which was great. Kucherov, he kind of dogged you guys a little bit, but that's okay. But yeah, it was going to be short. It wasn't going to be a 6-game series like New York. Definitely wasn't going 7. But all in all, it's another cup for Tampa, a really good year for Montreal to build on. So we'll kind of see how it plays out into the next season.
In the before times around now, you might even consider something like vacation because this would be the slowest sports time of the year. So
I actually just got back from vacation.
Where did you go?
I went to Orlando, so that's not really vacation. But I did take my kids and my girlfriend out to Orlando for a week, and that was during game 1 through 4. So I was hoping for no sweep. And game 4, I was sweating a little bit because I'm in Orlando. And all my guys in Orlando are in Tampa and trying to, coordinate certain things when the boss is on vacation for a Stanley Cup final. Yeah, that was a little sweaty, I was kind of happy it went 5, to be honest with you. But yeah, I was on vacation. But you're right. Typically, this is the time of year, like right before training camp, where we try to get some days off and that kind of stuff. The dog days of the race season, which are typically in July before the trade deadline, because once camp starts, it's all on football, and we're all in on the Bucks. So yes, typically, like my midday show guy had the whole week off this week. He came in on his day off today because he had to. Now, granted, he brought like 15 beers for everyone to drink while we were doing the show, but we kept it relaxed, because he is on vacation technically, so I'm not going to put too much on him. So, but yes, you're right. This is typically the time.
Are you drinking Bud Lights in the studio? Because maybe that's why you all start talking Russian.
We were drinking Bud Lights in the studio today. We were shotgunning a beer every hour in honor of Nikita Kucherov and Andrei Vasilevsky. So we did some shotgunning of beers on our video stream on StreamYard. So if you want to see some replay, my first shotgun beer today. I've never shotgunned a beer in my life. And the boys had to explain it to me on the air how to do this. The problem is they forgot to tell me you have to open the top of the beer. So I started mine a little early. So I'm just drinking the beer. So I'm holding it up. I'm like, okay, this isn't too bad. So my dumb ass, we're video streaming this whole thing. So my dumb ass, I'm like, hey, this isn't too bad because typically I see it spurting everywhere. So I squeezed the can, and it just too much. It just too much. And I literally spit it all over the console. The program director is spitting a beer on a radio console while the other guys are trying to explain to him how to shotgun a beer. Yeah, we had some fun today for sure.
You'll have to memo yourself.
But look, we had a hurricane come through town on Tuesday.
Oh,
I was on hurricane coverage on Tuesday night into Wednesday morning. Game 5 was Wednesday. We were on Game 5 coverage Wednesday into Thursday. It's 5:34 on Thursday. I'm tired, man. And look, I mean, if you can keep it loose and have a couple beers while you're doing it and just have fun with it, then why not? I mean, we've had a busy, and this is coming off a week of vacation for me. So, yeah, it's been a wild last couple of weeks, but we got boat parade on Monday, so that'll be a good time.
I've got some friends who are old Expos friends who are. While I have you, I'm sure they'll want to know what is. Yeah, there we go. You want to just answer it?
Why do we got to go there, Matt? Don't go there, man.
I thought it was winner gets a baseball team.
Hey, I'm okay with that. We already got a baseball team, and now I guess we can keep them, right?
Yeah. but is there any of that chatter going on, or has that gone away?
No, it's here. The mayor, Jane Castor of Tampa. You know, I've been down here 10 years, and that lease on that building ends in 6. They got to figure this out because they've been talking about stuff for 10 years. You got to figure this out because stadiums you just can't build a stadium like that. If they get to the end of the 2022 season, you got to figure that out. There's a lot of disdain right now for the Tampa Bay Rays ownership. Because the concept obviously is different, but it's not going to work, and it's not because of the logistics of everything. It's because the players' union is not going to say yes to that. So why float out this scheme, right? And not at least talk to the players' union first. And say, because look, taxes are different in Montreal and Florida, completely different. So and travel, I mean, good Lord, I mean, do you put your family in Montreal or do you put them in Florida? You know, the whole rollout of the thing is so amateur. Talk to the union, talk to the players. Don't just assume that 2 owners get together, put something on a napkin, and then all of a sudden that's the greatest thing since sliced bread. There's a lot of people's lives that are involved in that. And it starts with the people that play the games. So what I've never understood about this, and look, here's the one thing. The Rays ownership, and we're the flagship of the Rays. We are the radio flagship of the Tampa Bay Rays. The Rays have to go to the community, and they have to sell this to the community. Because right now, there's too many closed-door meetings, way too many. You need to go out to the people of this community, and I'm not just talking St. Pete where they play. I'm talking Tampa, St. Pete, Clearwater. They need to go to the people, and they need to convince them this is the right play. And they have yet to do that. Don't worry about what's going on in Montreal, but worry about the people here, because they're the ones that are going to lose something, whether it be half a season or completely. You have to convince them that's okay. Or find a way to talk to people to maybe get a referendum to put some tax dollars toward a stadium, because they haven't done that yet either. So they got to figure it out. I've been to the Trop. I like the Trop. It's not great, but it's okay. It's in a bad location. It's on the other side of the water. And when I mean the other side of the water, it's a drive, because the majority of the population in Tampa Bay lives on the Tampa side. They don't live in the St. Pete side. And it is a little bit of a drive. Now, I'm from Chicago, where it took 90 minutes to get to Comiskey Park. It takes about 35 minutes with the drive. I get it. People don't like driving. That's fine. But they got to get on this now. They rolled out this plan for a stadium in Tampa. Problem is you couldn't get enough private investment. There's a lot of resentment for Montreal down here, though. I don't know what the feel in Montreal is about this. I know the Bronfmans obviously are very high on this. I've listened to a little bit of TSN. They're obviously very high on it because it's new content for them. It's potentially new partnerships. But I don't know what the fan or the sports fan feel in Montreal is yet for potential half-season baseball.
Yeah, that's pretty tough to gauge, especially when you're just coming off hockey, because it is hockey first, and then we'll see
Right.
about baseball. Now, there's definitely an appetite for it, but again, it's like sister wives, right?
Hmm.
You know,
Yeah.
or are we a little bit pregnant with a baseball team?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And look, it didn't work last time.
No.
They moved. So what's to say that you're going to build a brand new stadium for half a season and maybe playoffs? I mean, I don't know. I don't know how that. I mean, there's got to be. I mean, I don't think the Broncos are all going to invest in that or whatever investment group they have. There's got to be some tax dollars, I would imagine, going into that. I know they hired somebody to try and find some government funds for it, but I mean, but it's for half a season. See, down here, at least you have a stadium. You can build on the stadium or knock down the stadium and rebuild on the stadium, but they haven't even investigated that yet. So I don't know. If it's not figured out by next November in 2022, I have no idea what will happen with this. And baseball may just say that's it. You know, Charlotte, Nashville, Vegas, Portland. There's 4 markets right there in the United States that would love Major League Baseball.
Between now and when training camp opens up for the Buccaneers, what is your schedule like? Is there a little bit? Can you exhale now a little bit?
Well, if there's any more hurricanes, no, because I'm also running our news talk programming down here. Yeah, right now, and I told this to all my guys actually today. Let's get the boat parade out of the way because that'll be a fun day, but it's a lot of work. So let's make sure we get that done, and then find ways to take days off over the next 2 weeks. I am encouraging my guys to take time off, and if that means I got to come in and host shows and run boards or whatever, they need time off. Because when we go to football season, it's all in. There's no days off until Christmas time. So we really need to focus what we're doing. So this is the breather. So the next 2 weeks, this is definitely the breather. And then once camp starts up, then we're going.
Well, I'd love to bring on another program director who programs sports. However, you've got all the action and all the fun. So, I mean, listen, you've been at the center of all of it for since the pandemic began, and it's been fascinating to watch. And this is the day after the Lightning win, and you're planning all sorts of stuff. And for you to take time out to be on this podcast again, thank you very much.
Absolutely, anytime.